Reviews are in for Skeleton Crew Episode 3, and it ain't bad. But the bad state of Star Wars means that almost nobody is watching this show. And Lucasfilm could be hurting the franchise even more by inserting the message into this children's show aimed at a demographic, sometimes in single digits of age. Today we'll tell you why this might not age well for Disney Plus, as audiences do not look so swell. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. Oh my gosh, what a great day it is. And we hope you out there are having a dandy of a day. If you are not, well, hang in there, for brighter suns can come your way. Folks, as we get ready to dive into today's content, consider clicking the like button. And we're going to get started with Skeleton Crew, the review for Episode 3. I know not many of you out there are watching it, but perhaps you would be very interested in knowing about two moms that Lucasfilm was just determined to insert, and perhaps did so putting ideology in front of business and finances. Will Disney investors be furious? Well, we'll explain what's going on. Click the like button, and here we go.
Okay, so this episode ends where the last one begins. They're breaking out of prison on the asteroid that is run by pirates. They have this guy who it's very easy to understand that he's not really a Jedi. They end the last episode. He doesn't actually tell them he's a Jedi, apparently, in all of this, and he is doing a lot of things that make it sound like he's probably a Jedi. Sounds like I sense many people over here, and I sense no people over here. Stuff like that. They make it out of this area. The little girl with the visor actually stops him before he goes into a hallway that has what looks like an interrogator droid or whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is. They get out of there. By the way, his name is like Silva or something like that. So he's Silver, as in the pirate Long John Silver. Also, of course, the robot.
Oh yeah,
33.
That makes sense.
It's like Smee. Yeah. So there's a lot of little heavy-handed references here like that. They get to the ship, and Smee is not there. Sorry, SM-33 is not there. So they say, no, we have to get Smee. Not going back for a droid, whatever. They convince him to go back for the droid. He does get the droid, but that leaves enough time for the pirates. By the way, the mutineer, is called Brutus, because every name has to be on the nose on this show.
I really enjoyed R2D2.
Yarg. That'll keep the crew from skullduggery for at
I gotta
least
stop
10
doing
minutes.
that. That cost us about 10 viewers who left in disgust and said, I can't take these dad jokes. They're just too much. They get out of there, and I guess the pirates are aware that they're leaving, and they go and they fly off to some other place, and they have to stop on some asteroid. And when they get there, they travel to, even though I guess they could have flown to the facility, they travel on foot to a facility in which there is an owl person thing.
Owl cat.
Owl bat. Yeah, owl cat bat
I
thing.
thought it was a cat owl.
Lauren, is this a new owl cat, or is this a something we've seen before?
No, it's a new creature. I don't know what the species is, but it's pretty cool.
Well done. I mean, none of the effects are bad on this show.
I believe they have those owls in the 100 Acre Wood.
If they do. Craig Ferguson, by the way, since he's a frequent topic of this channel, did the voice of Owl in Winnie the Pooh recently.
I'm still trying to get him to send me that snake cup.
Yeah. So anyways, they go in there, and it's revealed that the guy is not Jedi Nana Wood or whatever dumb name he was. He's actually Crimson Jack. And Crimson Jack has some kind of relationship with this person, not a relationship, but he's untrustworthy. She's not quite trustworthy because she might have called the cops. They're trying to determine where At-Aten is, and it's one of 12 Republic planets, because they have a paper chart here that has 12 Republic planets in it, and only one was not destroyed, and it was At-Aten. There's some indications that they are completely unaware of the events of Star Wars: A New Hope and what happened after that point. Lauren, would you agree with that?
No, I don't disagree. I mean, it's they seem out of tune with galactic events, but I think that there's a reason why that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're also kids, so if they were old and they didn't know, that would be a totally different thing. Then they decide they have to hoof it out of there because they discover that the bat owl cat lady called the cops on them, and there's a little bit of a fist fight between Jude Law's character and the bat owl cat lady, and then they run off. And before they will let him back on the ship, they force him to confess who he is. Who knows if he's telling the truth, and that he also has to help them find. He makes a deal with them that he will work for them and help them get to Atten, and some X-wing pilots try to find him. Eventually, they land, and the Bat Owl Cat Lady is asked, "Where are they going?" And she said, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." So,
all right. So
let's anything big.
Let's talk about the two moms issue.
Well, actually, I did miss something big.
Let's bring on someone else who is big just by nature of who he is. Folks, welcome to the screen, Kevin Apollo. Welcome, sir.
Gang, how's everybody doing?
Having a wonderful day. We'll put you up here where you belong. There we go. Okay, so Jonas, two moms. We were told by Chris Gore of Film Threat to watch out for this. Lucasfilm can't get out of its way. Now, my assumption here, I have to assume, and that gets me in trouble. The first three letters in assume. But I have to assume that Chris knows more than I do. And I have to assume that as this series goes on, that's going to be more prominent, because as it was presented in this episode, it seemed so ambiguous to me as to not be offensive to anyone. I don't think the average viewer is going to...
No, it is. It is. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
So it's two moms, and
maybe she's the aunt.
No. She says, because when they're going around the table, they're like, "My mom said this, and my mom's said that too." So did my mom.
Jonas, it's an accent. That's how they say it on Atten, right?
No, it was not an accent. It was what she said.
For me, it didn't bug me because it wasn't like the girl. The girl with the two moms was all of a sudden like, "I'm smarter than everyone because I was raised by two women." Like, that's where they start. That's where they would lose me. If it's like she's great because of this thing. Just the fact that it existed, I barely even noticed it. But I understand putting it in a kid's show, though. It raises questions and that you're not ready to answer from your kids, maybe, and it forces those issues to be raised in households that don't want them. So I understand both sides of the situation.
Well, my assumption is that it's going to be more prominent as we go forward. What I would say is it's just unnecessary when you're Lucasfilm and you're trying to get a win back and you're making a kid's show. This is a kid's show. This is Goonies in space. So it's like they are putting the ideology, they're putting the political, whatever, the partisanship that they have in front of the business. And maybe they think they're on the right side of history, so they should do it no matter what. Right? So viewership be darned, danged. I don't know how to say that without saying the other word. Whatever. Anyway, they put that in front of the financials. So this is just one of those things that it's kind of like, you didn't have to do this. You're only doing it because of your ideology. And there's nothing, like, it doesn't gain you anything. The only people still watching Star Wars are the people who already agree with you on this stuff. And if you had one single show where this wasn't in it, then you wouldn't have moderates and conservatives, having to screen the thing every episode. Now, this is going to be in the headlines on various places, and it's going to suggest to people, I'm not going to let my kids watch it. It's more of that Star Wars crap. And otherwise, minus this, it's a fantastic show.
It is really good. I kind of wish some things actually happened in this episode. I would say this one was a little bit more boring than the previous ones. It's still not great, but we've gotten to the point where where I'm now like, okay, but can you move you've shown you're competent enough to put this all together. I'd like this to move a little bit faster. The thing that I want to bring up here is this isn't even the gayest that Star Wars gets. They save that stuff for the young Jedi adventures, where they put the preschool character who is a they them, and it's not quite clear whether it's a boy or a girl. So
wait.
I told you they were going to do that in the second season. So
Jonas, are you saying that this is not the gayest Star Wars ever?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm sorry. When I go in this way, I end up more in Harvey Fierstein than Mark Malkin myself. But oh my word. Okay, so
very impressive in that. And not in a good way.
So I just have to say this is not the worst that Star Wars gets. If I was watching with my older kids that are more in the teenage range, I might just leave it in. But if I'm watching with the younger ones that are closer to the toddler range, I would probably cut this out. I'm not worried about the scary stuff. I'm not worried about the violence or the pirates. There's not that much violence. But to me, if this is all it is, I'm not as worried about it, because I can say, hey, as a Christian, maybe we're not crazy about this. There are other people out in the world that live lives other way. Someone existing is not a problem. If they get into that area where they do like an entire episode about the moms. By the way, somebody asked in the chat whether or not it was the girl bossy character or the cyberpunk girl. It's the girl with the visor.
Right, I called it. I said they'll do it to the Asian girl.
Yes,
I called it last week.
So that's double diversity right there.
Let's talk about quality. Lauren, let me go to you first. You tell me what your thoughts are on this episode in terms of quality. And in two ways, Lauren, let me make it more complicated than it has to be, because that's my thing, right? So one, what's the quality as just a show and just an episode inside that show? But also two, what's the quality in terms of as a Star Wars property?
I continue to enjoy the show. And I think if this wasn't attached to Star Wars and you were just watching it as a generic science fiction adventure show, I think people would like it. It does feel like something that came out around the 80s generally, and it's kind of fun. As a Star Wars show, again, it's not going to resurrect the brand, but one of the things that I like that it's doing is it is actually branching out and creating some new stuff, and in a way that's not undermining what's gone before. And that's something that so far Lucasfilm has been completely unable to do. So I'm happy to see them doing that. That's a thing that should be praised.
Kevin, your thoughts having seen the episode?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm a kid again watching the debut of one of those Ewok movies, on TV, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. It's fun. It could be its own thing. I think this would do probably better if it didn't have the Star Wars brand attached to it. Frankly, I think Star Wars is in such a bad place that it takes some unnecessary lumps, but I have enjoyed all 3 episodes so far. This one I felt kind of dragged a little bit, but as a Star Wars property, to be able to watch Star Wars and have nothing to complain about, that's a win.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I guess I'm next in line, so we'll just go this way. Then we'll drop down to Marvin and go back to Jonas. Quality wise, man, this is what we've been asking for forever. One of the odd things about it is that for whatever reason, the kids are better actors than the adults, minus Jude Law. But when the adults are on the screen, these parents, man, they're terrible. I mean, it's overacting again. It's back to the same stuff we've seen in the past. These kids are great. Like, take these kids and put them in new roles. I don't care. I don't care what they do. Just use these kids again because they're fantastic. In terms of pacing, I've got no issues with it. I think some of the visuals are wonderful. I thought, and spoilers, folks, I thought that breaking the fuel line in the way that they did, while it may have been a bit inconsistent with the angles they took to make that possible, I don't know if you pulled the camera out, if what they did actually could be done, that required certain angles they were viewing it. But I thought it was ingenious, and I was like, hey, this is something, and I could be wrong, Lauren could correct me. I thought, this is something we haven't seen before. This is a new escape, scheme that's been set up for us. We've got a new problem. We've got a new solution, and that's really cool. Jumping into hyperspace to break the line was cool. And the owl cat lady, I got to say at first, I groaned at first. I bet all of you did too. Because when it first happened, I thought, no, they put the freaking owls that Filoni's obsessed with in here. Like, here we go.
I wasn't thinking about that.
But then it wasn't.
I hadn't even thought of it.
Well,
I thought it was an owl bat, by the way.
See, I've been studying under Lorne, so I've become, I'm up to like a green belt now.
I would say there is not an owl cat that has previously appeared, but there are other bird creatures that are highly associated with pirates on Rishi. And that's Dexter mentions the Rishi maze in Attack of the Clones, but they also appear in the Old Republic. So if you're looking for something that's kind of analogous, that's the closest thing that I would come to.
So I would say that we continue to be in the territory of this being better than anything and everything other than the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian Season 2 in terms of, since Kathleen Kennedy has been in charge of Lucasfilm, this is the best we have had outside of those last 2 episodes of Mandalorian Season 2. That's where I'm at right now. Marvin?
Yeah, so I thought this was a lot of fun. Yes, did it drag a couple places? Sure. The only times where I was like, oh, can we move on is when we were with the parents. I don't care. Like the parents are the just the B story in this that I can do without. It's to the point where I'm just kind of like, the kids are so much more compelling in this show, and they're better actors than the parents. I don't need to be dealing with whatever's going on the planet. The adventure with the kids is so much more fun. And when the kids got to get up in the gunner seats and they were fine, like, that was pure joy. That was a fun scene. I had a smile on my face. I really liked it. I imagine, what would it be like as a kid to be all of a sudden behind the gunner position of a starship like that? We all, imagined it watching New Hope for the first time. I even thought that the one that I thought was a girl boss in the last one is this episode. I kind of liked the way they presented her. I kind of let my guard down a little bit more, and I was like, oh, she's a brat. Like, that's what this is. She's purposely being presented as a brat, and she's going to have to learn to be a team player as we go along here. Which like that. Opposite. It will show growth.
That's the opposite of how strong female characters have been presented in the past. So the idea that she's going to have to work with a team it's like, wow, where was this for the last decade in Lucasfilm projects? So we'll go with that, eh?
Right, and this is actually what I was trying to get to last week when I was talking about the arcs, is that you can see what the arcs for these characters are supposed to be, and so far, they're staying faithful to it, and that's a good thing. There are a reason that storytelling tropes exist. It's that they work, and you can look at them as a cliche, but there's a reason that cliches become cliches. It's because they work on the audience. That's what you want.
I don't know, Lauren, have you given your theory yet on what you think is going on with the planet, or are you saving that for later?
We're trying to save that for an article. Marvin, you're in charge of the website. We're trying to make the website big with this. Come on, man.
Okay, you're right.
All right.
Do you want to preview it? Do you want to just give a taste?
I think it needs to be more
I think
than
you
a
should
taste.
keep your big maw shut.
Yeah.
I think that we actually need to talk about it, because if I'm right, it is the flaw in the show, and it's the thing that will make people angry if I'm right. So I noticed.
Are you spilling the beans right now? Because I think we should separate this out just a little bit.
You want to give Jonas give you a review, and then
let me give my basic thoughts here on this. This is so much better shot than anything that we've seen out of television Lucasfilm for a long time. Acolyte was so bad. It was so poorly done. The dialogue was awful. And we've gotten to a point where we're judging this show not just based off of the fact that they've gotten the show together and everyone is delivering their lines well. That's a standard that we have not been able to set before we actually talk about this for a very long time, because the Acolyte was so bad. and so cringy, and the dialogue was so flat that we were praising Lee Jung-jae for the fact that he said his lines correctly, having learned enough English to say it. We were praising him for the fact that he delivered the lines correctly.
And now he says we were mean old, bad old bullies to Leslie Headland. It's like, well,
Right.
Lee Jung-jae, we gave you what we could. You're
Right. So then we can talk about this show and the pacing and things like that. I think this is something that if it were a movie, and Space Montana looks great, it looks interesting, but this feels more like a George Lucas, Steven Spielberg collaboration to me than it does a Star Wars show. I think the pacing is a little weird. This is the kind of thing that you would have a quick shot of them getting there to that planet, and then you would have the conversation that happened in there, and there would need to be some musical swell moment, and then they run. This whole thing should take about 10 minutes of a movie instead of taking 37 minutes of runtime on Disney Plus. But that being said, they've at least got enough that it has my attention. I am less interested in the next episode than I was with the previous episode. This needs to go somewhere at this point, but right now, judging this just based off of its merits, this is not bad, at least, and I can see that spirit of adventure that would appeal to children. But because it's Lucasfilm and they're putting in things that kind of make me roll my eyes a little bit here, I'm not gonna enjoy this with my kids until I can fully understand where they're going with this and confirm to me that they're not doing a second season of it. I might even cut a couple of scenes out of it because I have that ability. But yeah,
all right.
I'm not doing final review here, so
Before Lorne spills the magic beans, let's get our score, folks, because we do this and we got to do it again, so we got to do our score of the episode. So we're going to go around the horn. You all give me a numerical score. Jonas will give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, and then we'll figure out what that exactly meant. So final score for episode 3. Lorne, we'll start with you. Where do you land on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 is the best thing you've ever seen. 5 is average. 0 is hot garbage.
7 for me.
Okay. Kevin Apollo, what say you?
I guess 7.5.
All right. I give it an 8.5. Marvin?
I'm going to go, I really like this. I'm going to go with an 8.
Jonas?
As a kid's show, thumbs down. As a show that a grown adult with no indoctrination involved, thumbs up.
Jonas, why must you complicate this?
What? If it's a kid's show, it's a no.
You said you wanted it so simple that it's just a thumbs up or thumbs down emoji for you. And by golly, you gave us 2 emojis that we now have to deal with.
Well, if Disney would make up their mind about whether this is a kid's series or not, then I would be a lot more okay with it. There are no toys for this out on the shelf, so I guess it's for adults.
I have triangulated. I have triangulated, Jonas, your score. You gave it a thumbs down and you gave it a thumbs up. The middle of that is a 5. So you're giving it a 5. Okay.
I'll give it a 5. How about that? Yeah.
All right. Folks, we're at a 7.2 for the episode 3, which is not bad at all. I think last week we're at, an 8 was the score?
Mm-hmm.
So final score for episode 3 for Skeleton Crew is 7.2. That would mean that we're somewhere around a 7.7 if the score for the first 2 episodes was an 8. So not bad.
What on earth could I ask for Christmas that's like a guarantee from Santa? Oh, I know!
Yeah, Wilton, we need to talk. You're likely not going to get anything from Santa because you've not really been, good.
Well, don't be so sure, my good fellow.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna go find Slade and wish him a happy Merry Christmas holidays. Okay.
Bye. All right, let's see what he asked for. Cole and a gifted WDW Pro membership. that little troll does have a heart. A diseased, twisted, tiny, sinful heart, but a heart nonetheless. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone!